What's going on, guys? So in front of me, you were looking at our 2023 GMC Sierra Denali 1500 half-ton pickup truck equipped with the Baby Duramax 3-liter. This thing is a beautiful truck. We've had this truck now going on 2 years. So we got this at the very beginning of 2023, actually right at the end of 2022. We specifically wanted to do a long-term evaluation on the 3-liter Duramax. We didn't specifically choose the Denali package. It was what's available at a dealership that we were able to get our hands on. We paid MSRP for this. We had absolutely zero discounts. We were right at, before tax and everything, right at about $73,500 in that range. And we have put nearly 30,000 miles on this truck in the last 2 years, which is roughly 15,000 miles a year. We're going to give you a follow-up, talk about the things that I like about this truck, some of the things that we don't like about the truck, some things that have grown on us that we ended up liking that we maybe originally thought we didn't like, and the reverse of that, things that we originally liked but maybe we don't like as much anymore. So this should be a pretty fun video, especially if you've looked at getting one of these newer GMC Sierra trucks. Typically, the way you can tell if it's the newest generation is the front headlight assembly. They've made some pretty extreme modifications from the initial new body style GMC. Anyways, let's kick this video off. Hang tight. I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to go straight to the number one reason why we wanted this Duramax was fuel economy. It wasn't the capability of towing big trailers. We knew that we would be restricted to a relatively, let's just say a reasonable half-ton number, under 9,000 pounds worth of towing capacity, because this truck has like 8,800 pounds maximum towing capacity in the configuration we have. Also, the payload capacity we knew would be kind of low. This truck has about 1,450 pounds worth of payload capacity. Again, mainly because it is a very high trim truck, right? The Denali package is going to include a lot of luxury features. Now, this is not a Denali Ultimate, which means we don't have some of the features that you could still get on one of these, such as the auto-deploying running boards, which essentially just come out instead of coming down like you see on some vehicles. And that's primarily due to the relatively low stance that this truck has. This is a four-wheel drive truck. So even though it sits relatively low, which we kind of appreciate just for getting in and out of the truck, loading things into the bed, it has a very two-wheel drive stance to it, even though it's a four-wheel drive truck. But this truck has been rock solid. We've had absolutely zero mechanical issues with this truck in the past 2 years and the past 30,000 miles. On top of that, the truck hasn't changed a lot. And what I mean by that is my impressions of the truck initially are largely the same, except for some things that have changed, and we'll talk about that. And again, we got this truck specifically because of fuel economy. We wanted to see if we could get that magical over 30 mile per gallon fuel economy number consistently on this truck. And that is going to be the first dislike that I have, and it's a pretty big dislike. And this is probably going to be contrary to what many people who originally followed the journey of us getting this truck thought. A lot of people believe that after you've put a couple thousand miles on a vehicle, the fuel economy actually gets better. In the case of this truck, regardless of the climate, regardless of where we've been with it, the fuel economy numbers have actually dropped. Now, we've done all the oil changes. We've taken it to GMC. They gave us the first oil change on the house, and every subsequent oil change, we've taken it back to the GMC dealership. We've done every recommended service that they've told us, because that was one of those things we didn't want to come back to and find out that, okay, well, we're having a problem now because we didn't follow GMC's recommended service intervals. So we've done everything we were told to do. And again, always taking it to the GMC dealership for oil changes and services, rotating tires, all of that stuff. But the fuel economy numbers have dropped off from where they were initially. When we first got the truck, my very first test evaluation of this truck was right when the truck, I think, hit about 800, 900 miles. And I took it down on about a 2.5 hour trip each way. So about 5, maybe 6 hours worth of driving. And I was getting remarkable fuel economy. Now, granted, this was in the January, February time frame of 2023, so only a couple months after we got the truck. But the fuel economy numbers we were getting on the highway were like 32 to 33 miles per gallon. And in the city, we were getting like 26 to 28 miles per gallon. It was really, really good. And I was trying to get the best fuel economy I could without being an awkward driver that is, driving super slow and holding up traffic. Now, I have attempted to replicate those numbers, and I was able to in some subsequent trips after that initial trip, but about 6 to 8 months in, the fuel economy numbers are still good for a half-ton truck, but they've definitely dropped down from where they were initially, which means that right now on the highway, I'm seeing more like 28 to 29 miles per gallon on a really good day. And in the city, I'm seeing like 24 to 27 miles per gallon. So it's dropped off about 3 miles per gallon from where it was initially. And I'd love to know, those of you who have a similar truck with the similar powertrain, if you're seeing something similar, if those numbers have dropped off for you as well, because they certainly have for us, even though we've done nothing different and we've been keeping up with the truck and we haven't done anything in terms of letting maintenance lapse on the vehicle. So I'm very concerned about that because, again, a lot of folks actually said, wait until you put a couple thousand miles on it, those numbers are going to get even better. And that's not what happened. It's exact opposite. So again, if you have a similar truck, let me know what your thoughts are there. Let's talk about some of the things that I've really enjoyed about the truck and some of the things that I don't care as much for. So first of all, one thing I really enjoy are the headlights. The headlight output on this truck is absolutely phenomenal. It's got projectors for both the high beams and low beams. These are going to be your low beams. These are going to be your high beams. They are these really wide style projectors that are becoming more common on pickup trucks, honestly. They cast a great swath of light on the road. And the low beams are so bright that oftentimes you really don't even need the high beams. But the high beams definitely work well as well. I mean, you can see way down the road. The headlights look amazing. The turn signal, the LED accent light of this truck looks absolutely beautiful. And I think that they've done a great job with the styling of this vehicle. It looks gorgeous. And it's still relevant because this is still the current body style. If you get this in an ultimate package, they do some interesting kind of brushed aluminum look to this instead of chrome. But I'm thrilled with the light output. I'm thrilled with the driving performance of this truck during the day or night. It accelerates great. It is quiet on the inside for a diesel. It is very smooth riding. It's just a great truck overall. It looks absolutely beautiful. Now, something I don't care for is the slope of the hood. The slope of the hood to me is, I don't know if it's a miss or not, because the way the hood looks is definitely a characteristic of why this truck looks so nice from the outside, but you really have no way of knowing how close you are to an object. Like if I were sitting inside of the truck right now, the shop door right here is probably 5 feet in front of the truck. It would look like I'm a foot away from it. And I thought that I would get a better grasp of how close I am to things without the parking sensor or the front camera. But oftentimes I'm wondering, why aren't these sensors going off? I think I'm going to hit something. Then I put the front camera on and I see that I'm still like 4 feet away from whatever I'm pulling up to. It's really odd. And it's definitely a different feeling than what I get in my F450 or even my wife's Expedition or even a Ram. You typically can say, okay, I'm only about 1.5 feet, 2 feet away from something in those vehicles. But on this truck, it seems as if, you know, this distance right here is about to hit the front bumper. It's really kind of crazy and it's kind of odd. But again, you got to trust the parking sensors. You have to trust the front camera, and you'll realize that you probably have a lot more room in front of the truck than you think. But that's just kind of one of those things that you have to deal with when you own a vehicle. I think over time, maybe it may become a little bit easier to determine how far away I am. But I mean, 2 years has gone by and it's still a little odd. And again, comparing to, you know, a much bigger truck like my F450 or even my wife's Expedition, which is roughly the same size. Wheel and tire package. The tires are wearing perfectly. They still look like new. The tires are in really good shape, super comfortable. The tires on this truck are Bridgestone. They're dualers, and they are a good, nice, knobby, aggressive all-terrain tire. So I have no problems with the tires. Super quiet, very plush ride. I am extremely thankful that we did not opt for an ultimate package because that would have put 22-inch wheels on here. I like the 20-inch wheels. I think they definitely fit the look of the truck really well. A very, very luxurious, elegant-looking wheel. And because they're 20s, you get more sidewall height versus a 22, and it actually contributes to a smoother ride, which is really nice. A lot of people say tire size and wheel size don't play into ride quality. That is absolutely not true. They do. They make a huge difference in terms of ride quality, and in terms of this specific truck, that is the perfect setup, and I really like it. Fog light output is really good on this truck. You get a lot of lower light output. I know I probably should have talked about that while I was talking about the headlights, but That is really nice. The truck is actually pretty easy to clean as well. That's a big thing that I like, is you don't have too much intricacies in terms of little areas where stuff gets caught that you can't get it out of. So the truck's been really nice to be able to keep clean whenever we want to take it through a car wash. The running boards are really nice. I am very glad that we didn't opt for running boards that were deployable, because I've seen them, I've used them on media vehicles, and they deploy relatively slow. So I love the fact that these are always out, always available, and they just work. They function really well. They extend all the way from right behind the front wheel well to right in front of the rear one, which means it gives you great access if you need to step on it to get something from the bed of the truck. Now, from a suspension perspective, this truck has a relatively soft suspension, as you would imagine for a half-ton truck, but it still feels firm and planted. So I really like the driving characteristics of this truck when it comes to handling bumps, when it comes to handling imperfections in the road. It soaks it up, but it doesn't do it in a bouncy way. In the Expedition we have, in many Ram trucks I've driven, they feel too soft. You go over bumps and it kind of feels like the truck's doing this number. This truck has really good suspension, and it recovers very quickly whenever you go over a bump, and I love that, and it actually makes it a very enjoyable truck to drive around. But once we get into the interior and we start talking about some of that stuff, that's where my opinion starts to fluctuate a little bit. But yeah, the ride quality of this truck is absolutely fantastic. The mirrors, they should have put spot mirrors on. We added spot mirrors to this truck. I know there's blind spot detection on it, but really just put tow mirrors on pickup trucks, even if it's a small one, a small spot mirror, something that you can visually look at besides a little light that's flashing at you. I think that it just makes sense, especially on trucks. If you don't want to put it on small SUVs and cars, fine, but on large SUVs and trucks, I think it's super important just to have spot mirrors on as standard equipment. It just makes sense. Aside from that, we haven't had any roof leaks. We haven't had any problems with the sunroof, nothing like that. Probably one of the reasons why GM sticks with the standard sunroof and not a panoramic sunroof on these trucks. It's a more tried and true method, I'm guessing, and it's been holding up really well. We haven't had any problems at all with leaks in the vehicle, even though out here we're getting spiders in the truck. Now, we didn't have an issue with any of the other vehicles. I haven't been getting them in any of the other vehicles, but I'm going to be honest with you, we've probably had a couple dozen spiders, and you know, it only takes one spider hatching eggs, I'm sure, to give you a bunch of spiders, but they've been different types, and for some reason they end up in the headboard up here. They end up in the very top, and I don't know why they're getting in there, but it's a very creepy thing when you're driving and you feel something rappel down to the top of your head, and yeah, it ends up being a spider. But none of them have been huge, thankfully. Let's go to the bed. Okay, around to the back of the truck. Love the lighting. The LED lights, turn signals, parking lights all look fantastic. I love the integrated chrome-tipped exhaust. I think that looks absolutely fantastic. The corner steps on this truck are larger than what's on my Super Duty. Very functional. They work really well. I really like those. Parking sensors, all of that stuff. I still do wish it had a 4-way trailer connector there. Instead, that's all your camera connections and things like that. You have a 7-way beneath it, but again, you shouldn't have to use an adapter. I think a pickup truck should just always have the 4-way. Even if they have to add another plug for a camera somewhere else back here, it should be a 7-way and a 4-way, and this one only has the 7-way. Aside from that, you'd have to use an adapter. This does have the multi-pro tailgate, a 2-inch receiver down below, which we have towed extensively with this truck. So we've towed every travel trailer we've reviewed. We've towed every trailer that is capable of being towed by this truck, and the truck tows really well. We've talked about that in many videos. But again, from the tailgate perspective, this does have the multi-pro tailgate, and it seems as if it's been dropping quicker than it did initially. I've seen some trucks, I've reviewed some trucks to where the tailgate drops really slow. Ours seems to be dropping faster than it did when we first got it. And then of course you have that tailgate where it drops down. We added these lights right here. We've had a few instances where the lights have popped out and I've had to pop them back in. They simply, you know, push in with compression clips, so I'm not too surprised that that's happening. We did not get the, I think it's a kicker sound system with this one, which is fine. I don't need speakers coming off the back of my tailgate. This does not have an auto up tailgate. I don't think you can get it with multi-pro, with this multi-flexible tailgate. We have used it in a few of its configurations as actual, you know, work versus just demonstrating it in a video. This is definitely the most common as a step to get up. The second most common configuration for us is with that up so I can reach into the bed of the truck. We have a product that we just unloaded actually that required that, and it really made it easy to pull items out. Again, because this has a relatively low stance for being a four-wheel drive truck, it's really nice to be able to get things in and out of the bed very easily. So that has worked out really well. The bed cover we put on here is a Pace Edwards, and it works really well. It's been holding up nice, and the water you see here is simply because of what we loaded in the back. It got wet and we had to have the back open for a while. Aside from that, everything back here has been performing well. This really cool Black Armor 1/2-inch thick rubber pad back here, which weighs like 100 pounds, of course, has been holding up well. I don't think I would have, thought anything would have happened to that. We've used the tie downs extensively. I really don't use this handle. This is the handle that you can use to get in and out of the bed of the truck. I don't think we've ever used this except to demonstrate how to use it in a video. So we just kind of keep that the way it is. I'm sure somebody does, but my daughter actually pointed out to me how far it is inside of the truck, that it actually is one of those things that you don't just naturally gravitate towards grabbing whenever you get in the bed. I do like the spacing on the sides of the bed over the wheel well, so this gives you quite a bit more width to your bed than you see with some of the competition and the competitors' trucks. But overall, it's a really nice setup. I do not like the fact that there is not a button back here to turn these lights on, and that these lights only stay on for like 20 seconds. I don't know if that's exactly how long, but they don't stay on for very long, which can be really, really frustrating. And I want a button back here. I want a button that I can just press. It keeps them on until I either lock the truck or I turn the button off. But yeah, there's not one back here. And that is actually a huge gripe of mine owning this truck. The tailgate is just as heavy and kind of awkward as it's always been. You get more used to it as you own the truck, but you got to reach way underneath it, lift up, and then close it. But yeah, that's kind of an awkward way to close a tailgate, but it's fine. You get used to it again. And then you get used to the order of buttons here. The top button is for the smaller upper tailgate, and then the bottom button is for the main lower tailgate. Camera views and all of that stuff are great, but there's a critique I have against that once we get inside as well. That said, that is the overview of the outside of the truck. If you own one of these, give me your feedback. Let me know how you feel about the ownership experience of the things that I've talked about on the outside of this truck. Well, this video is getting a little long, so we're going to make another video specifically pointing out the interior things that we like about this truck and things that we may not care for. Guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.